Sports Matters TV, bringing the sports home.
Okay, guys, welcome to Sports Matters TV. I'm joined by a football legend, a former Liverpool, Spurs, Manchester City player, and a fantastic pundit, Mr. Paul Walsh. Paul, how's things with you, sir?
Yeah, okay. It's a bit weird at the moment, isn't it, with what's going on and stuff. And I've been walking and trying to do a bit of exercise. Just got back on the golf course, and stuff like that. Really, just trying to. Staining's been difficult and doing stuff like that. Stuff around the house, but probably what most people have been doing.
Yeah. Did you ever think you'd see the football world come to a standstill? It's crazy. It's hard to believe, isn't it?
Never ever thought that. I actually a few years ago I asked myself a question: did I ever think the footballing bubble could burst? And it was no, because there's just get bigger and bigger players coming into the scenario, and Amazon and even Netflix and people like that, Yahoo, all them trying to the big media giants, digital giants, and I thought there would just be more and more money just keep getting piled in, but this is sort of sent a massive correction to the world in a way, and it's unforeseen, unwelcome, but it is what it is, and so it's difficult.
Definitely. And the good news today, apparently, obviously, all the media outlets are kind of saying that the football's back June 17th, which is great news for Liverpool fans, for Man City fans, all fans in general.
I don't know. I just think the season now is just a massive anticlimax. Playing behind closed doors, no fans. I really feel for Liverpool because, they have, they were absolutely romping the title. And those, in something like that, you get five or six games where you can maybe enjoy a title running, and really enjoy those home games and, savour it, and you don't get the chance to do that. You might only get that once in your whole lifetime. And with what's happened, it's just been the rug has been pulled away from them. And, it's a real shame for the players. It's a real shame for football. But listen, if you start looking outside of the football bubble, there's been a lot of people dead. Yeah. And so you have to try and put it in some sort of perspective, but purely in the football bubble, what's happened would make you feel pretty grumpy as a player if you're a Liverpool player with the way it's unfolded.
Definitely. No, Paul, speaking of your career, you had a marvellous career as a footballer. Obviously, there was a lot of injuries that, did hold you back a tiny bit. But PFA Young Player of the Year, obviously played with Liverpool, Spurs and Man City, of course, Luton. What was your time like at Liverpool? Obviously, you done well there. And I'd regard you as a legend at Liverpool. So, how did you enjoy your time there?
Yeah, listen, I made a massive mistake just as I was joining Liverpool. Probably my biggest regret in football, actually. And it was like, looking back on it, it was born out of a couple of things, really. Fatigue. And in my head, I had a plan, which was I was just joining Liverpool. I had 5 full England caps. I was PFA Young Player of the Year. I was just about to play in the European Under-21 final, and Joe Fagan asked me to go to the European Cup final in Rome, which I really wanted to do. And I was fatigued, but it would mean missing the Under-21 final. In them days, we never had mobile phones, and the contact was a lot slower. And I asked my manager David Pleat, because I still hadn't signed for Liverpool, to call Bobby Robson and see if he minded me going with Liverpool and not playing any Under-21s, because we had a tour of South America a few weeks later. And I didn't hear back. And then I went to buy a newspaper the next morning. This is how slow things got around in them days. And on the back page, it was Bobby boots out Walsh. If he can't motivate himself to play in a European final, he's not for me. Oh, well, I was gutted, but I thought, do you know what? I'm joining Liverpool. I'll be all right. I'll get back in the England team. And that just never happened, because my first season at Liverpool, I thought was a steady start. I played, probably in a lot of people's eyes, I wasn't expected to play because Russian Dalglish was still in full flow, but I did play. I made my home debut with Kenny Dalglish, one of my boyhood heroes, scoring in front of on my home debut in 14 seconds against West Ham. My dad, a West Ham season ticket holder, up in the stand, and but then I had my first setback, which was a cartilage injury. And then I got, come back from that. And I got back in the side, and me, Rush and Dalglish all started in the Hazel Tragedy European Cup final. But that cup final was just about to change my life to a point, because 2 reasons. I had a hernia that I was playing with, but the club didn't know what it was. I knew it was around my groin, and they just didn't know what it was. And so I played in the final up till half time, came off. The whole thing was a funny, weird experience. Yeah. And then I picked a newspaper up about a week later, and Kenny Dalglish had been named the manager. Joe Fagan resigned, and I thought, wow, and I think it was a surprise. Didn't know then how that was going to affect me. Yeah. And because they didn't know, we didn't really have a good medical. The medical at Liverpool was terrible. And so I went and got my own operation sorted out, because my old doctor at Luton was very good. I went and saw him. He diagnosed it straight away like that, and got the operation sorted. But that was my first fallout with Kenny. Yeah, going and getting my own operation. Anyway, and also I missed pre-season because I went and got the operation. Yeah. So anyway, but that was actually my best season, the double winning season. And I always wanted to do well for Kenny. I wanted to impress him, and things couldn't have been going any better for that season. And having him on the bench was also the greatest motivation you could have as a player, for me, because if I was having a bad game, he used to bring himself on for me. Yeah. Hang on.
No, you're right.
So that was a great motivation to play well, stop Kenny coming on, because it was good, not a bad substitution, and the crowd loved it when Kenny ever got warmed up, and then the season couldn't have been going any better, and we're playing Manchester United at Anfield, and I got up for a challenge with Kevin Moran, come down, well, in midair, my ankle got turned round in the midair clash, and I'd ruptured my ankle, but again, Roy Evans, bless him, didn't know what was wrong with me, and slapped a cold sponge on it and went like that, and no one knew what it was. The surgeon said, leave it, it'll be okay, just rest it. Came back pre-season, and so now I've lost 4 months. And I missed the FA Cup final, which I was devastated about. I really struggled with missing the FA Cup final, because I'd grown up. The FA Cup was everything, and I really struggled with that. And and then I come back pre-season, tried to get going on the hard ground and couldn't. And then they decided to inject some dye into the front of my joint, and then take an X-ray, and all the tears, the dye leaked out of the tears. And I'm like, why didn't I have this 4 months ago? Yeah. And then I spent another 3 months injured. And then by the time I've come back and I'm not fit, but I'm ready to train again, I went straight in the first. Well, actually, no, I went to watch Everton Liverpool in the second leg of the Screen Sport Super Cup final. We were well in front, and Kenny went to me, go on the go and have 10 minutes at the end. Hang on, let's turn this phone off, keeps ringing. Go and have 10 minutes at the end. And so I go up for a challenge, come down, and I land on my arm. Oh, coming after a game, I say to Roy, I went, can't repeat. Is this going to go out as a video or?
Yeah.
Oh, it is, right. I could have told me, I'd have combed my hair.
No, you're all good.
and so Roy went, hey, you soft so-and-so. He said, I can't, that ain't what he really said. It was much worse than that. You've been out 6 months. So I went home, I couldn't sleep that night. Next day I come in for training, I can't get my kit on. I'm trying to run round, but I've got my arm tucked in here. And he went, get yourself up the hospital. So I drove in a manual car. I've got a broken right wrist, right? I'm trying to steer with that and change gear. I can't even hold the steering wheel. Come back in plaster up to there. And there is a picture somewhere. 2 weeks later, I had the plaster cast stuck to there. And to my elbow. Madness. And then went straight in the first team. And I had 3 really good games. Scored a hat-trick. And I've got a great picture somewhere of me up against Steve Bruce, who's playing for Norwich. And I've got a plaster cast, but the plaster comes down to there, over my fingers. So every time I fell over, I had to do a stuntman roll because I couldn't put my hand on the ground because I'd have broke all my fingers.
Jeez.
And I scored a hat-trick, and I was just so glad to be back. But I had nothing in the tank. And slowly over the next few games, I started just plodding.
Yeah.
And Kenny didn't want to play, really, because we had, he was 34-ish, something like that. And we needed another. Anyway, bought John Aldridge. So now Kenny's buying his players. So bought John Aldridge. Aldo and Rushy did well. So possession of the shirt, that's what happened. And them 2 scored and played well together. And Aldo was good goal scorer. And then at the end of that season, I think he brought in Beardsley and Peter, John Barnes, and he said Peter Barnes, John Barnes, and Barnsley was phenomenal. Peter had a slow start, but Peter was a quality player. But Peter had a slow start, and I just felt under the old regime, I would have got back in the team. Because it didn't matter who you were, if someone wasn't playing that well, someone else got an opportunity. Peter didn't start great. He struggled first 2 or 3 months, and then all of a sudden his true quality came through because he was a tremendous player, Peter. And I never was getting a look in then, and that was it. I spent the last year not playing a lot, being unhappy and not playing. So but that's how that. I have to accept now. That's just how life is as a football player. I didn't accept it like that when it happened. Believe me. I was poor me, and life's can't be a god doing this, and all those sorts of type of thinking. I just struggled to accept what had happened to me because in that double winning season I was going so well, and the wheels came off, and it was one of those not very nice moments in football.
I can only imagine, Paul. And obviously, you made the move to Spurs. Obviously, you won the FA Cup. Like that Spurs squad was pretty good. It was a strong team. Obviously, Gaza was there too.
We was all right. We had one brilliant player.
Yeah.
He was brilliant. On our day, if everyone turned up, we could beat most teams. Maybe not Liverpool, but most teams. But we were inconsistent. We weren't a great team.
Yeah.
But Gaz's individual ability won us the FA Cup. Without him, we wouldn't have got nowhere near it.
Yeah.
Such a shame what happened to him in the final. But he was a fruitcake as well, but an absolute genius fruitcake. But we didn't have the same camaraderie and stuff for hanging on. Camaraderie and hang on, I've just got to go to the door, mate. Hold on.
Yeah, it's okay.
So it was doing it just wasn't the same. The togetherness, that winning mentality, all of those things just wasn't there. And so, we won an FA Cup. Great. I'm proud to say I won an FA Cup. It's nice that I've done that.
Yeah.
I never played nowhere near my best at Spurs. I think I was still in the fallout of leaving Liverpool. Yeah. It took me a couple of years to even get my head round. I'd got in some bad habits, and I just didn't play well. So I let Terry Venables down, if I'm honest. I didn't always see it like that at the time, but I actually let him down. He gave me the opportunity for another good club, and I didn't really take it for reasons that off the pitch really. I was unprofessional, didn't live properly, and I got caught up in that sort of life a little bit. And so I didn't play my best, was never focused, was never as fit as I could have been. And I was a fit boy, really. Taken my focus off of football and consoled myself in other things. And, that's a regret.
Yeah.
But, when you're in football for 20 years, I'm not giving myself an excuse here. I'm just trying not to beat myself up too much. I didn't, I just didn't fulfill my potential at that time.
Yeah. And Paul, is it fair to say that obviously the game's a lot different now? Obviously, we're seeing a lot more money. Not saying the money wasn't good back in the 80s and 90s, but obviously the player today, obviously they're watched a lot more. There's a lot more that, like, I suppose you always hear the stories in the 80s and 90s, like a lot of players, you know what I mean, they're misled, or, you know what I mean, there's a lot of things that could go wrong. Do you think this day and age a footballer is more secure and safe?
I think there's a lot of things really. I think in terms of behaviour, social media. I mean, even though players still muck up, I think in just what's expected of them. I think that they're taught a lot better about how what they should conduct themselves. I think what's expected them, and you've got to be a bit of an idiot to not know what you can and can't do and can't get away with.
Yeah.
We had so much rope, and and a lot of the time we hung ourselves a bit. But modern day player, he knows that Joe Public thinks they get paid a hell of a lot of money and too much money in lots of cases. I get a little bit frustrated because I never earned any of that money, but I actually saw it, in lockdown, and when Matt Hancock jumped on footballers straight away, I'm like, why? There's loads of other wealthy people in the world. Richard Branson, I got on social media, I got really, really irritated with it, purely on the basis because I never earned none of that money, right? But it's not the point. These are players that have a 10-year real good earning, 10 years, at the top level. And, it's a tough life being disciplined. I struggled with it at times, as I've just told you. Yeah. And, some of these very wealthy people furloughing, lots of their employees, and they're sat in the background with, very wealthy people. But that's fine. But why dig out footballers? Why not golfers? Why not all wealthy people, contribute into the pot? Yeah. That was all I was saying. Just be fair across the board. But anyway, I didn't earn that money, and the players earn a hell of a lot of money. But it's a tough life. Social media, scrutiny, over-analysis of everything they do on a football pitch. There's no hiding place. So I think it's a tough world. People only see the money. People jealous, people just, that's all they see. I know that that's a hard life what they lead, but people think because they only train a couple of 3 hours a day, all swanning around in nice cars. What a footballer does now is he consoles himself with material stuff because he hasn't got their, we could go out and have a beer. We could go into the pubs in Liverpool and the clubs in Liverpool and have a night out. It's a struggle for a player to do that, really.
No, I understand. And I'd have to ask you
whether you can go out.
Yeah. No, you always do have the stories. Obviously, the 80s, 90s, and even the early 90s. It's, you could kind of socialise more and stuff. Like if you've seen Roberto Firmino in a club or Sadio Mane, it's a different game. You won't see it because obviously, they might be attacked or, there's always the harsh reality of, stepping in the spotlight.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of rope. Today's player, I think he knows he knows where he should and shouldn't be. He knows when he's taking a risk, and he knows that that people are out there, trying to trip you up a little bit, and that's part of why they get paid a lot of money, as far as I'm concerned, because they have to contend as young men with all of that stuff. And they get paid handsomely. Great, great. I don't begrudge them a penny, and I never earned a penny of that money. There'd be a YTS, not a YTS, but first year pros on Liverpool, probably on more than all the money Alan Kennedy and Phil Neal earned. Getting 7 titles, umpteen European Cups. What they earned was a pittance, but they've got lots of medals and accolades.
That's all that matters, I suppose, at the end of the day. Paul, we have to ask you quickly. There's a couple of fan questions, 2 or 3. Who's the best you've played with? It's probably a couple.
I can't say one. I always have 5.
Yeah.
It can't be one because I've played with too many good players, and in different positions. So it's Dalglish and Rush. It's John Barnes, Gaza, and Stevie Nicol. Stevie Nicol was my roomie for a long time. Absolutely phenomenal footballer in any position. And it was one of those players that, because people always go, Stevie Nicol. And I go, yeah, he was a great player. You know, play anywhere and be brilliant, right? But one of them unsung heroes who you'd have in your team all day long, and wasn't underestimated by the rest of the players, but probably Joe Public as a whole didn't know how good he was. And
So
that's so I can't say one.
that's good answers. And we have to ask you, what's your favourite moment in a Liverpool shirt? Obviously, you know what I mean, there was so much success, you know, in your time there. Anything that stands out to you in particular?
Yeah, I've already said it, which was my scoring on my home debut in 14 seconds against West Ham. My dad being, you know, a West Ham season ticket holder. In that moment, that was the most ecstatic moment of my whole life. Scoring, you know, at Anfield that quickly on my home debut, playing alongside Kenny Dalglish. You know, everything just happened in that moment. It was just wonderful, and there were other good moments as well. But I mean, that was just, you know, it was just fantastic.
Epic. And last of all, we obviously, you know the game inside and out. You're obviously watching all these young stars coming through. Anyone that the fans should keep an eye on at Liverpool, perhaps underage, or maybe anyone across the world? Anyone that you've looked at and said, look, they're going to be a baller?
No, not really. I mean, this might surprise you, but I don't watch much football.
Yeah.
You know, I don't work in it anymore, and you know, I've stopped thinking about it as much as I used to. I'm not aware of any great young players that are out there.
Yeah.
I don't sit there and I'm not obsessed with it anymore.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you. You know, you know, I hear of Jadon Sancho, but it's not like he's new. Everyone knows he's that. There's players that once they hit the scene, I could tell you about, but I don't look at youth football or I'm just not interested. Got other things. I like playing golf, you know, things like that.
Yeah. Now, Paul, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. It was brutally honest as always. That's what I love about you. I'm obviously going to miss you on the telly. We hope we see you back on Sky Sports or somewhere in the near future. Because you're obviously, you know, you were brilliant. But we'll catch up with you very soon, my man. And thank you very much. We'll have all the links.
Thanks. Thank you.